Imagine a place that is, well, geographically impossible. I want you to picture walking up a mountain path. If you approach this building from the east, you're looking at the stark white walls and golden roofs of a classic Tibetan monastery.
Okay, so a standard Himalayan vibe.
Totally. Flags snapping in the wind, the whole thing.
Right.
But if you walk up that same path from the west, suddenly you aren't in Tibet.
Right.
You're standing in a Japanese rock garden with sliding paper doors and raked gravel. Come from the south, it's a California adobe mission.
And from the north.
Nothing, just empty space.
That sounds like a riddle. Or, a glitch in a video game map where the textures didn't load properly.
Exactly. But according to the material we are covering today, this place is real. Or, it's real and it's not real. Welcome to another deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today we are unpacking a text that is, frankly, pretty mind-bending. It's titled The Quantum Monastery, Schrödinger's Sutras by Max and Claude.
This is a heavy hitter. It's one of those texts that forces you to, put the book down every few pages and just stare at the wall for a minute.
For sure. So the mission of this deep dive is to explore a pretty radical thesis that Buddhism and quantum mechanics, two fields that seem like they shouldn't even be in the same conversation,
Not at all.
are actually describing the exact same reality. They're just using different operating systems. One uses math, the other uses meditation.
And the text argues that if you can translate between them, you get this explosion of insight.
Yeah.
So that monastery you described,
Yeah.
the one that's in Tibet, Japan, California, nowhere all at once, the authors say this isn't just poetic imagery. It's actually describing a fundamental principle of physics.
Quantum superposition.
Quantum superposition.
Right. And to understand the monastery, we have to start with the cat. I think most of us have a vague idea of Schrödinger's cat, right? That thought experiment.
It's the classic analogy. You put a cat in a box with a radioactive trigger. Until you open that box to check, quantum mechanics says the cat is not alive or dead.
It's both.
It's alive and dead simultaneously. It exists in a superposition of states.
Which always sounds insane to me. Common sense says the cat is definitely one or the other. We just don't know which one yet.
Right. We assume the reality is fixed and our knowledge is what's limited.
But that's not what physics says.
No, that's what's called the hidden variable theory, and experiments have largely ruled that out. The weirdness is real. The universe doesn't settle into a single definite shape until it is observed.
The act of looking forces the universe to choose.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And that applies directly to the monastery in our text.
Okay, so connect those dots for us.
The text says the monastery exists in all those architectural styles, all those probabilities at the same time. It is Tibetan and Japanese and Californian.
Until an observer comes along.
Precisely. A classical observer. And by classical, we mean us, living in the macroscopic world. If you walk up with the expectation of a Westerner, your consciousness collapses the wave function into California mission.
And if you have different cultural conditioning.
You collapse it into Tibetan. So the observer isn't just watching reality. They're literally carving out the version of reality they encounter from this raw potential.
Wow.
And that is the core teaching of the abbot who is and is not a central figure in the text. He teaches that reality is not what you think it is. Observation creates reality.
Okay, so this brings us to the first big collision here between physics and the Dharma. The physics of consciousness. There's a section where the abbot has this realization about the double slit experiment.
This is foundational physics, but the way he applies it to Buddhism is fascinating.
So just to recap the science for everyone.
Yeah, quickly. If you shoot photons, particles of light through two slits, they act like waves. They ripple through both slits at once and create an interference pattern. They're pure potential.
Unobserved, they're waves. Got it.
But if you put a detector there to watch which slit they go through, if you try to measure them, they stop acting like waves.
They snap into acting like solid particles. They go through just one slit.
The act of watching changes how the universe behaves. The particles get shy, in a way.
And the abbot connects this to what?
To the Buddha's teaching that phenomena are empty of inherent existence. For centuries, monks thought this was just philosophy, that things don't have a permanent soul or essence. But the abbot realizes the Buddha was being literal.
Literal in a physics sense.
Yes. Things do not have definite properties like a location or solidity until they are observed. They were empty because they are just probability waves waiting for a collapse. The chair you're sitting on is mostly empty space and probability until you interact with it.
That moves emptiness from a philosophical concept to, like, a physical mechanism. But what I really loved was how this changes the actual practice of meditation. The text contrasts classical meditation with quantum meditation.
I found this part so practical. I mean, think about how most people try to meditate. You sit down, you try to quiet your mind, and you monitor yourself.
Am I focused right now, or am I distracted?
Exactly. Am I thinking about my breath or what I'm going to have for lunch? It's a binary choice. Focused or distracted. Good or bad.
You're measuring it.
You are forcing your mind into a definite state. You are collapsing the wave function of your own awareness into a tiny little box.
So what's quantum meditation then?
It asks a different question. It asks, can I be focused and distracted simultaneously?
Which sounds, well, it sounds impossible, or at least paradoxical. My brain just wants to pick one.
To a classical mind, yes. But the goal is to rest in the uncertainty, to maintain the superposition. Instead of forcing your mind to collapse into a state of, I am calm, you allow yourself to be calm and agitated, present and absent, all at once.
It's like trying to be the wave instead of the particle. You stop trying to pin yourself down.
That's the perfect way to put it. And this sheds a whole new light on one of those famous Zen koans. Show me your original face before your parents were born.
I have always found that one baffling. I just assumed it's meant to break your brain because it's nonsense.
Classically, sure, it's a riddle to break your logical mind.
Mm-hmm.
But through this quantum lens, the text argues it's asking for your wave function.
My wave function.
Before you were born, before you collapsed into a specific body with a specific name and history, you were just infinite potential. A probability distribution of all possible people. Your original face is you in superposition.
That is actually mind-blowing. It takes something mystical and gives it a specific physical mechanism.
It does. And it doesn't just change how we view ourselves, it changes how we connect with others. Because the text argues that this quantum view completely rewrites the definition of compassion.
Which leads us into entanglement. There's a story in the text about the meditation master who cannot be located.
Great name.
It is. So he's sitting in this freezing cold hall with 30 other monks, and suddenly he feels the boundaries just dissolve. He doesn't just feel empathy for the monk next to him, he literally feels their knee pain as his own.
This is the distinction between empathy and entanglement. Empathy is psychological. It's imagining what someone else feels.
That must hurt.
Entanglement is physical.
To break down entanglement for us.
In physics, when two particles interact, they become one system. Even if you separate them by light years, they stay connected. Change the spin of one particle, the other responds instantly.
Einstein's spooky action at a distance.
That's the one. And the text argues that since our brains are made of particles and we are constantly interacting, sharing air, photons, pheromones, we are all biologically entangled.
So compassion isn't a moral choice. It's not about being a good person.
It is a recognition of a physical fact. We are not separate systems. Your suffering isn't a metaphor. It's a literal description of an entangled wave function.
When you hurt someone else, you're introducing chaos into your own system.
You can't poison the water at the other end of the bathtub without poisoning your end.
But there's a big warning label attached to this section. The authors warn about spiritual bypassing.
This is so crucial. People hear we are all one, and they just lose the plot. Just because we are entangled at the quantum level, the wave level, doesn't mean we ignore the classical level.
The particle level.
Right. We still have separate bodies. We still have separate bank accounts.
You can't just walk up to someone and say, your wallet is my wallet because we're entangled, man.
Exactly. Officer, I didn't steal the car. The universe is one. That is not going to hold up in court.
It is not.
You have to honor both the separation and the connection. It's holding the paradox again.
Yeah.
We are one and we are two. Both are true.
Okay, let's switch gears to something really tangible. Pain. The deep dive introduces the physician of unnecessary pain.
Right. This is based on the Buddhist teaching of the two arrows. The first arrow is physical pain. You stub your toe. That's unavoidable.
Biology happens.
The second arrow is the mental reaction. The anger, the why me, the this will never end. That's the suffering part.
But the text gives this a quantum twist. It defines that second arrow specifically as measurement collapse.
Yes. This is fascinating. Imagine pain as a superposition.
Oh.
At the quantum level, the raw sensation exists as a spectrum. It's mild, it's intense, it's throbbing, it's fading. It's all of those potentials at once.
But then our mind latches onto it. And labels it.
The moment our mind labels it, this is unbearable or this is a migraine, we collapse the wave function. We take a fluid sensation and freeze it into a solid object.
We force it to be the worst version of itself.
Exactly. We measure it as agony, and so it becomes agony. The physician suggests a practice where you feel the raw sensation without applying the label. You allow the pain to remain in superposition.
So you're not denying the pain, you're just not defining it.
You're feeling it fully, but by not defining it, you keep it from solidifying.
Yeah.
You keep it fluid. And the text claims this reduces the total suffering.
And this works for emotional pain too, right? Grief, anxiety.
Absolutely. If you feel grief and you label it, I am depressed, you collapse the complex waves of emotion into a rigid box, a static identity. But if you just feel the heaviness, the memories, the love, the loss, if you let it be a wave,
it flows, it changes. I think that's something you can try next time you have a headache or feel anxiety. Stop measuring it. Just feel the vibration of it. Now we have to go deeper. We have to talk about the ultimate collapse, death.
Section 4. Death is decoherence.
Right. We meet the hospice master who has sat with hundreds of dying monks, and he offers a definition of death that is purely physics.
He argues that death isn't some mystical transition of a soul leaving a body. It is decoherence. Our brain is essentially a quantum computer maintaining a very complex state of order.
A superposition.
Exactly. Holding all these possibilities together. And when the biology fails, it can no longer hold that state. The system creates too much entropy, and the wave function collapses permanently.
The wave becomes particles.
The quantum becomes classical, dust to dust.
That sounds a little bleak.
But here's where it gets interesting. The text refutes the idea of individual reincarnation, a soul jumping bodies. Instead, it proposes pattern propagation.
Like a ripple in a pond.
Exactly. Think about a great teacher you had, or a grandparent. They die, their consciousness decoheres. But the patterns they created, the information, their wisdom, their specific jokes, have been entangled with you.
So grandma patterns continue to ripple through me.
Yes. You survive in the people you entangled with. The information doesn't disappear, it just propagates through the network.
That's a beautiful and kind of terrifying responsibility. It means every interaction we have is planting a seed of our own reincarnation.
Precisely. You are constantly uploading your code into the people around you. And there's one more detail the hospice master notes. Right before the end, dying monks often experience a moment of sudden, perfect clarity.
The final rally. You hear about that.
The text interprets this as the final moment of pure coherence. Before the system crashes, the consciousness lets go of all the partial measurements, all the anxieties and labels, and for 1 second, it sees the whole wave function clearly.
Wow. Okay, so if death is the end of the individual me, what about karma? The text has a character called the archivist who completely rebrands it.
Yeah, forget the cosmic ledger of good and bad points. The archivist describes karma as probability distribution.
Meaning?
Every action you take shifts the probabilities of your future states. If you act with anger today, you're not being punished later. You have simply loaded the dice of your own wave function so that angry, incoherent states are more likely to happen tomorrow.
You've altered the geometry of your own future.
You've tilted the table.
Yeah.
And this links to the timekeeper, who offers maybe the most brain-bending concept in the whole book. Time is superposition.
Which is hard to grasp because we live in a linear flow, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
But in quantum mechanics, time doesn't necessarily flow in one direction. The timekeeper suggests the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously, the eternal now.
And this allows for a practice called retroactive healing, the idea that you can change the past.
Not the physical events. You can't go back and stop the car crash. But because the meaning of the past exists in superposition, you can measure it differently now.
Walk us through that.
Let's say you have a trauma from 10 years ago. Right now, in your mind, that memory is collapsed as the event that ruined my life. That's the measurement you're holding.
Right. It defines me.
But if you revisit it in meditation and observe it differently, maybe seeing it as the event that forced me to grow, you literally collapse the wave function of that memory into a new state.
I change what it is.
You change its impact on the present. You change the probability distribution of your future. In a quantum sense, you have healed the past, because the past is just a set of probabilities acting on you now.
That is powerful. Speaking of which, let's talk about language, because there's a character called the monk who cannot speak correctly.
He is so important. He stutters, he speaks in fragments, and he does it on purpose.
Because language is violence.
Because language is the ultimate tool of collapse. The moment I say, I am sad or you are angry, I have taken a complex swirling state and forced it into a tiny box. I've killed the superposition.
Words force reality to be definite when it wants to be fluid. If I look at a sunset and say, that's beautiful, I've kind of reduced it.
Exactly. You've stopped seeing it and started reading the label. The stuttering monk struggles because he's trying not to collapse the wave function with definitions.
And the text suggests poetry is the solution.
Or at least the least violent option. Poetry allows for multiple meanings at once. It uses metaphor and ambiguity to keep the door open.
The text quotes some of this quantum poetry. It says, the speaking that cannot speak, the knowing that knows not.
It captures it perfectly. It points at the moon without confusing the finger for the moon.
We have covered so much, from the physics of meditation to the architecture of death. But the outro of this deep dive, the 10th Sutra, throws one final curveball.
It's the final reveal. A student asks the masters, is the monastery real? And they answer, the monastery is real and the monastery never existed. Both are true.
Which brings us full circle back to the cat.
It brings us back to the listener, to you. The meta twist here is that by listening to this material, you have become entangled with it.
We are the observers now.
You are. Your understanding of what we've talked about today is a unique collapse of the source material's wave function. You've created a version of the quantum monastery in your mind that exists nowhere else.
And the text leaves us with a challenge.
It's a call to rest in uncertainty. We want answers. We want to know, is Buddhism right? Is physics right? The text says, stop measuring. Can you exist in a state where you are both enlightened and unenlightened, confused and clear?
That is a lot harder than it sounds. We are addicted to certainty.
We are addicted to collapse. But the freedom, the liberation, is in the wave, not the particle.
So here is our final thought for you. Right now, as you listen, you're a collection of particles and possibilities. You are a wave function walking around in a physical body. The world is going to try to force you into a box, a job title, a personality type.
But remember, those are just measurements, one slice of the reality.
The challenge is, can you go through your day-to-day without labeling everything? Can you let the traffic be just traffic, not bad traffic? Can you let yourself be just you without the story of who you're supposed to be?
Can you keep the wave function alive?
That's the practice. Thank you for diving deep with us into the Quantum Monastery.
Rest in the uncertainty.
We'll see you next time.